In 1969, a television phenomenon was born that would forever change the landscape of American family entertainment. 6 children, 2 parents, and 1 housekeeper became the most beloved blended family in television history. But behind the perfect smiles and cheerful theme song lay a world of secrets, struggles, and shocking revelations that the cameras never captured. Today, we finally uncover the truth about what really happened to the Brady Bunch cast after the cameras stopped rolling, and the answer will leave you stunned. September 25, 1969. A date that would forever be etched in television history. As millions of American families gathered around their television sets, they had no idea they were about to witness the birth of something extraordinary. The Brady Bunch premiered 2 modest ratings, but what unfolded over the next 5 years would create a cultural phenomenon that continues to captivate audiences more than 5 decades. Later, creator Sherwood Schwartz had a vision to show America that love, not blood, makes a family. But little did the world know, the real drama wasn't happening in front of the cameras. Behind the scenes, 6 young actors were about to embark on a journey that would define their entire lives, for better and for worse. Florence Henderson, already an established Broadway star, took on the role of Carol Brady with the grace and warmth that would make her America's favorite TV mom. Robert Reed, a classically trained Shakespearean actor, reluctantly accepted the role of Mike Brady, never imagining how this decision would haunt him for decades to come. And then there were the children: Barry Williams, Maureen McCormick, Christopher Knight, Eve Plum, Mike Lookinland, and Susan Olsen, 6 young souls whose childhood would unfold in the glaring spotlight of national television. The chemistry was undeniable. The stories were heartwarming, and America fell in love. But as the show's popularity soared, something darker was brewing behind the wholesome facade. The pressures of fame, the challenges of growing up on screen, and the complex dynamics between cast members would create a web of secrets that wouldn't be fully revealed for decades. What started as a simple family sitcom became a cultural touchstone, but at what cost? The truth about life on the Brady Bunch set was far more complicated than anyone could have imagined, and the impact on these young actors would echo through their entire lives. Barry Williams seemed to have it all. He was Greg Brady, the cool older brother that every teenager wanted to be. But behind that confident smile and perfectly feathered hair lay a secret that would shock America when it was finally revealed decades later. The young actor had developed an intense, all-consuming crush on his on-screen mother, Florence Henderson. It wasn't just a fleeting teenage infatuation. Barry's feelings for Florence were so intense that he would later confess to asking her out on a date. A revelation that sent shockwaves through fans who had always seen the Brady family as the epitome of wholesome American values. Florence, ever the professional and maternal figure, handled the situation with grace. But the incident highlighted the bizarre reality of young actors trying to navigate normal teenage emotions while playing family members on national television. The pressure on Barry was immense. As the oldest Brady son, he was expected to be the leader, the role model, the one who had it all figured out. But in reality, he was just a confused teenager trying to understand his place in a world where the lines between fiction and reality had become dangerously blurred. The fan mail poured in. Young girls screamed his name, but Barry found himself increasingly isolated, unable to form genuine relationships outside the artificial bubble of Hollywood. As the show progressed, Barry's behavior became more erratic. He began experimenting with drugs, a common escape for many child actors of that era, but one that would have devastating consequences for his future career prospects. The clean-cut image of Greg Brady was becoming harder and harder to maintain, and Barry found himself trapped between the persona the world expected and the troubled young man he was becoming. The tragedy of Barry Williams was that he had everything a young person could want: fame, money, adoration, but he was losing the most important thing of all: himself. The real Barry was disappearing behind the Greg Brady mask, and it would take decades for him to find his way back to authentic happiness. She was America's sweetheart, the girl every young boy had a crush on, the one who made Marcia, Marcia, Marcia one of television's most iconic catch. But behind Maureen McCormick's radiant smile and perfect blonde curls lay a darkness that would consume her for decades. The pressure to be perfect was crushing. As Marcia Brady, Maureen represented the ideal American teenager: beautiful, popular, and wholesome. But the real Maureen was struggling with demons that no one could see: the constant scrutiny, the impossible beauty standards, and the weight of representing America's sweetheart began to take their toll on her fragile psyche. What the cameras didn't capture was Maureen's growing battle with depression and anxiety. The young actress found herself trapped in a prison of expectations, unable to live up to the perfect image that had been created for her. She began to question everything about herself, her appearance, her talent, her worth as a human being. The fan letters praised her beauty, but all Maureen could see in the mirror were flaws. The situation became even more complicated when Maureen developed romantic feelings for her on-screen brother, Barry Williams. The two began a secret relationship that blurred the lines between their fictional family dynamics and their real-life emotions. It was a relationship born out of the strange, isolated world they inhabited. But it added another layer of confusion and guilt to Maureen's already troubled emotional state. As the Brady Bunch ended, Maureen found herself facing a harsh reality. She was typecast, struggling to find work, and battling inner demons that seemed insurmountable. The transition from child star to adult actress proved nearly impossible, and Maureen's life began a downward spiral that would include drug addiction, failed relationships, and years of psychological torment. The girl who had once been the envy of every teenager in America was now fighting for her very survival, and the battle was far from over. Christopher Knight faced a challenge that no acting coach could have prepared him for. He was Peter Brady, the middle child, the forgotten one, the Brady who seemed to exist solely to deliver the occasional punchline. But in real life, Christopher's struggle with his identity would become far more complex and heartbreaking than any script could capture. As the middle Brady boy, Christopher was caught between Barry's natural leadership and Mike Lukenland's adorable younger brother charm. On screen, Peter Brady was often overlooked. And tragically, this fictional dynamic began to mirror Christopher's real-life experience. He watched as his castmates received more attention, better storylines, and greater opportunities, while he seemed destined to remain in the background. The famous Peter Brady voice crack episode became a defining moment for Christopher, but not in the way anyone expected. While audiences laughed at Peter's awkward transition through puberty, Christopher was living through the genuine embarrassment and confusion of adolescence under the unforgiving gaze of millions of viewers. Every awkward moment, every stumbled line, every physical change was broadcast to the nation, creating a level of vulnerability that no teenager should have to endure. As the Brady Bunch ended, Christopher found himself facing what many child actors experience: complete typecasting and professional oblivion. Casting directors couldn't see past Peter Brady, and Christopher's attempts to establish himself as a serious adult actor were met with laughter and dismissal. The very role that had made him famous had also become his professional death sentence. The psychological impact was devastating. Christopher began to question whether he had any identity outside of Peter Brady. Who was he without the character that had defined his entire childhood? The answer to that question would take decades to discover, and the journey would be filled with false starts, career disappointments, and a desperate search for relevance in a world that seemed to have moved on without him. The middle child syndrome that had defined Peter Brady was now defining Christopher Knight's real life. An escape seemed impossible. Eve Plum made a decision that shocked Hollywood and enraged Brady Bunch fans around the world. She said no. When producers approached her about reprising her role as Jan Brady for various reunion specials and spin-off, Eve did the unthinkable. She walked away from the security and easy money that came with being part of television's most beloved family. As Jan Brady, Eve had delivered some of television's most memorable lines, including the iconic Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. But behind the scenes, Eve was developing a reputation as the most serious and professionally ambitious of all the Brady children. She watched as her castmates seemed content to be defined by their childhood roles. But Eve had bigger dreams and the courage to pursue them, regardless of the consequences. The decision to distance herself from the Brady Bunch was not made lightly. Eve understood that she was walking away from guaranteed income and constant publicity, but she also knew that true artistic growth required risk. She began pursuing more serious dramatic roles, studying method acting, and deliberately choosing projects that would challenge audiences' perceptions of her capability.